Welcome back to the Art Room with Mrs. Hallowell. This is lesson 1 of term 3 and the focus this week is going to be on nature and natural things such as insects. So the learning intention is to explore different textures on paper and collage an image of an insect, perhaps in the style of Eric Kyle. The texture on the paper is not texture you can feel, it's implied texture, so it's really repeated patterns and it mimics the patterns that you would see in nature. So we're going to create our collage, including parts of the insect and lots of detail in your work, and taking a photo will be a really important thing to send to me for my webpage. Before you start the lesson, you may have read the book by Eric Kyle called The Very Quiet Cricket. I've put a link in that to my webpage. Eric Kyle uses painted paper with texture to create all his pictures. He's most famous for writing The Hungry Caterpillar. So he's an artist that we can mimic today. In his work that we were just reading, there was a praying mantis, a dragonfly, a cicada and a bumblebee, and we notice in all of these animals, all of these insects, there is a head, a thorax and an abdomen. These insects all had 6 legs. Some had 4 wings and some had 2 wings, and you're going to create your bug in a realistic style like Eric Kyle with textured paper that you're going to collage and cut out. Now, one artist that's quite interesting is Andy Goldsworthy. He's British, he's still alive, and he uses flowers, rocks, grass, leaves, twigs, water, seeds and seed pods and even ice. He creates all of his artwork in nature outside. He uses sculptures and he loves radial designs. You notice that the rocks that are going around are going from light to dark. You notice that he likes to use the round section with his ice sculpture. The tree is probably his most famous one with the leaves at the base. It looks like the tree is actually standing in lava, but it's actually yellow leaves and then orange leaves and then red leaves. So he loves radial designs and he likes emphasizing nature within his work, as particularly the texture of nature like moss and mud and sand and bark. So he's an interesting artist who's still alive today. Now today you're going to need some paper to make some patterns and some interesting images. You can use paint, you can use crayon and you can use pencil. You're definitely going to need to wait for that to dry if you do paint. You're going to need some things to make marks, you're going to need some glue and some scissors, and you're probably going to need a camera or a phone so that you can take a picture and send it to me so that I can feature it on the web page. Here's a couple of examples of what your work will look like. So you can see clearly head and thorax and abdomen. You can see 6 legs, sometimes wings, definitely antennae, sometimes pincers at the top. So you're going to try and create lots of detail. So cutting out the line down the abdomen, cutting out several sections of the eyes. If you're in grade 3 or 4, you might want to draw some parts of it. And you're going to glue this onto coloured paper. When you've finished arranging everything, wait till you've arranged everything and then glue it down. The next part of the video is how I made those insects, and you can follow along or just watch it and do your artwork afterwards. So to make some textured paper, there's a few ways that we can do this. So if you don't have paint at home, then don't panic, because we're going to make textured paper using crayons, pencils, everything. I'm just going to start with paint. You're only going to be doing this if you're at home, because then you have time to let this dry. If you're at school, there is already some prepared paper that I've made, so that you don't have to wait for it to dry. Or you can stay on and see another type of paper that you can make. I don't have a lot of paint, but I'm going to put some paint onto the surface of the paper. So you'll need a few pieces of paper to make some textured pictures so that you can cut them out. So I'm just going to layer on the paint quite thick. You can use 1 colour or 2 colours. I'm not going to paint to the very edge of the paper because I find that it sticks to the newspaper too much. So I'm just going to use what paint I've got. I've got some yellow and blue, so I should be able to make some blue and green sections to the paper. So I don't want to colour it in too neatly because I want to make some texture, like in nature, like the artist that we looked at. Now you can make texture in several ways. If you have a painting fork, you can use that, but I don't. So I've just used an old cookie container and I've cut different shapes on each side, and I'm going to use these as a comb and just kind of drag them around the page just to give it texture. So I want to make some marks on the page. You can make crosses, you can twirl it, you can do whatever you want. So another way of making painted paper, if you don't have the acrylic or the poster colour paints, you might have a watercolour palette at your house. It looks a bit like this. This you can't paint thickly because of the water element of it. So you just will paint from your palette and you'll use your water, and you can create a little bit of texture by using a couple of different colours. That always looks really good. But then what you can do is, once you've got some paint on the page like that, you can take a piece of paper or towel. Paper or towel's normally got really interesting patterns, and you can just lay that over the top, and that's going to create a pattern. And then that will give you a nice texture to your paper. So you can see the pattern from the paper towel. I've only done a little bit, but that would look really good in a collage. So there's two ways to do painted paper with pattern and texture. If you don't have paint, if you have got crayons, you can do a crayon rubbing. So you can do a crayon rubbing on the concrete outside. You can do a crayon rubbing on coins. You're going to need to peel your crayons like I've done, so that you can do a good rubbing. You can buy crayon rubbing sheets, so you can buy texture, they're called texture plates, so you might have some of those. They're definitely really good to use. I've created my own texture plate here by getting some little bits of cardboard and gluing them down. Some of you will have used those in the art room. So we'll do this one. We'll just have a look. If you do two colours again, just like the paint, if you do two colours, then that adds some really interesting texture. If you can't find anything like that, you can use some packaging or some Lego. This makes awesome crayon rubbing. So that was the Legos, really vibrant and exciting. And then the cardboard. So you can hunt around the house and find crayons, and I've left some of these things, I think, in the art room as well. So if you're at school, you can use these in the art room. So you can make painted paper, you can make crayon paper. So if you're in grade 5 or 6, you might want to plan your bug, because at this age we can plan things and then build those things that look like our plan. So to help you, there's a worksheet here which is going to help us to build our insect. So we're going to try and build our insect in the 3 sections of abdomen, thorax, and then we're going to do the head at the end. So the first kind of thing that you're going to think about is your abdomen. What kind of shape would you like your abdomen? What kind of insect are you going to be doing? Are you doing an insect that's got wings? So like a bumblebee body? What kind of thing do you want to do? It can be based on a real insect from the story, or it can just be based on your imagination. So the first thing you'll be sketching is the base of the insect. So mine's going to be kind of like a beetle. Then you can have a look here at the worksheet and you can think about the thorax. These are mostly irregular shapes. There are some semicircles and squares and rectangles, but you're able to draw whatever shape you want. Remember, this is a sketch, so it doesn't need to be perfect. So I'm going to go for this shape here, which has that rounded shape, and then it goes like that. So I'll be rubbing out those lines, and then that will be my thorax. When it comes to the head, you're going to think about the shape of the head, the eyes, the antennae. Has it got pincers? What kind of thing would you like to base your bug on? So at this point, I think I'm just going to go for this one down here. Again, you can overlap this and draw it however you want to. And you can really start planning where things are going to go and what you're going to be making. This way you've got your 3 sections to your insect. Now obviously the older you get, the more detailed your picture will become, so you need to work out how many legs are going to come off of the thorax and how many legs are going to come off of the abdomen. So generally speaking, an insect leg is going to be in 3 parts, and they've got quite a lot of movement. You can think about, do they have pincers on the end? What are they going to have? So their legs tend to all be pretty much the same. Mine have got kind of a knee part here so it can crawl. And so you can start planning the detail that you're going to be doing. So remember, you don't want to make it too detailed because you're going to be cutting this out using the paper that you've made. So it doesn't want to be too detailed. Might want to do some paper strips that go along here and outline that. So you can be planning your insect as you watch the story based on this. So here's one that I planned earlier as well, so it's slightly different. You don't have to stick to your plan when you're making it. You'll see that a lot of insects, these have got like 6 legs. Some have spots, some have wiggly lines or stripes. Some of them have legs coming off the thorax, some have legs coming off the abdomen. So you're going to need to think about what kind of insect do you want to be. So remember, it's not going to have to be completely realistic. You are going to draw inspiration from the story, but when you come to cut the paper out, you can change it up a little bit. But you'll just be thinking about the shapes that you're cutting your paper. So once you've got your plan, then you're ready to start building your insect with your patterned paper. So we come to making our actual bug now. These are the bugs that I've made using the patterned paper. So I'm thinking you need to have a look at what colours you might have at home. So if you have coloured paper at home, you can put that down as your background. And if you don't, that's okay, because if you use white, it will stand out really well. You can grab your plan and start thinking about how we're going to build the insect up. So I've got my pattern paper here. Some of it was painted newspaper. Newspaper works quite well, so if you don't have time to paint things and wait for it to dry, newspaper works well. I've got my crayon rubbings, so I've got quite a few different colours and different patterns. And then I've got my painted paper that I've made and it's dry. So I've got loads and loads of colours and different ones, because you don't want to do the same colour over and over, otherwise you won't be able to see your bug. So once you've got your paper, you can choose to glue this down if you want to. You are going to need to grab your scissors. So we're going to think about what type of bug you plan to make. What bug do you want to make? Is it like a beetle? Does it have a very small head like this one? Where do the legs come? Are the legs coming off the thorax like these two, or off the abdomen like the 4 here? So your 6 legs are going to be attached to your bug somewhere, and different bugs have their legs in different places. So you'll see here from the spider that all of the legs come off of the thorax here. None of the legs come off the abdomen at the back, and there's a bit of a sting at the back here as well. So where do the legs come? What kind of shape or size of the antenna? Theoretically, the smaller the head, the bigger the antenna, because this one had a small head and small eyes, so it's got quite a big antenna. Whereas, let's see, my fly doesn't have much of an antenna because it's got massive eyes. Now this one's got wings, and all 6 legs are actually built and come off its thorax, and they go into 3 parts. So there's a thick part here coming off the thorax, a bent part, and then this part here with a pincer, a grip. So if you want to get lots of detail and make it quite challenging, you might need to do your legs at different angles with 3 parts to them. This one is the beetle that I'm going to base mine on. So it's got its abdomen and it's got 4 legs coming off the abdomen. On the thorax there's 2 legs. It doesn't have very big eyes, but it's got these pincers, and it's also got the antenna at the side. So you might want to think about how you do that. If you want to do a dragonfly, they do have large eyes. This one's got quite a small antenna. It's not really feeling its way around. The body is long and all 6 legs come off the thorax. So the abdomen is not got any legs coming off it. So it depends if you want to do a realistic bug or an imaginary bug. So you can use your imagination and create your bug. If you want to do a butterfly, you might not see the legs because the wings are going to take up quite a lot of the space. But here, the legs are sort of spread out, so that could be realistic, I don't know. It's got legs coming off of all parts of it. It's got quite large antennae. It's got quite large eyes for a small butterfly. So have a think about what type of bug you're going to create. Remember that you can stick to your plan, and then you're going to start sorting your paper. You don't want to cut everything out of one colour paper. So you don't want to use this just for everything. Now on the back it's just kind of plain, so I can actually draw the shape that I want to cut. I could draw the abdomen on, like that, and cut that out. Or I could actually fold it in half, and along the fold I could then draw half of the abdomen and then just cut that bit out, and I should be able to open it up and get my abdomen. If you take a piece of coloured paper from the tub in the art room, don't put all the little bits back, put those in the bin, so that when the next class come, it's all really nice for them. So here's my crazy abdomen. So I don't want to cut the thorax out of the same colour because you just literally won't see it. So I'm going to take a different colour. I'm going to take some of this crayon rubbing, and I'm going to make my thorax out of the crayon rubbing. So when it comes to the thorax part, it can be a sort of a weird sort of shape like this, or it could be an oval, so it could be a geometric shape, and it could just be a rectangle if you wanted it to be. It could be bigger than the abdomen, or it could be much smaller. So you're going to decide the ratios that you're going to use. So I think I'll just cut a roundish kind of shape. I'm going to go for a sort of an oval. If it's too big, I'll just make it smaller. So I'm going for something like that. There. I can play about with the layering of it. I can layer it up, and then I can trim this bit round so it fits. So you can really play about with the sizing, and I'm really happy with that. That looks good. So when it comes to the head can be quite small. I think I'm going to go like a cone shape. You could definitely go a circular shape. Think about if you want pincers and antennae. I think I want both. So I'm going to go for a completely different colour now. I'm going to go for this red one. And then I'm going to cut the head. I think I'll go for a cone shape. Now you can place this onto the page, or if you want to, you can even glue it down as well. So there's my head, and then I'm going to do my eyes and my antenna. I'm going to move this one aside because I've created one with lots of parts. And I'm just going to build this one now. So you can actually glue it down on the page, or you can create it like a puzzle for someone. So you can say, here's all the bits of my bug. You can create your bug. So the large part's the abdomen. Then I've got the thorax. Then I've got a head. So I'm going to just keep creating my bug. I've done a line down the centre because I'm going to pretend that I've got wings inside. I've got big eyes. I didn't really like the pattern side, but I like the plain side, so I'm just going to keep the plain side. I'm going to put eyes on there. Now I'm going to have 6 legs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to have them coming at angles along Now, if you were in grade 3 or 4, that would be all right, but if you're in grade 5 or 6, I was hoping that you could do about 3 parts to your legs. So that would be good. I've got antennae cut out. It doesn't matter if it comes off the page, it still looks amazing. And also, I'm going to have these like pincer things. So remember, if you want to draw these on the paper and then cut them out, that'll be good. I'm going to be big crazy eyes. Crazy bug eyes. Boink. Okay. Sometimes you might cut something out and it's very similar colour and you don't really like it. So you can trace around it and maybe cut it out in a different colour. Change it up a little bit. So you can put patterns on it. You can put those patterns, spread them out. You can have your bug coming on an angle at the page. So you can do whatever you want with your bug. And if you feel like gluing it down onto the page like my ones, you can glue it down onto the page. So this is what I mean by several parts to the legs. I've done 1, 2 parts and then pincers. And I've cut out 2 parts to the eyes. And I've cut out a line here between the head and the thorax. I've made wings and I've got that line going down the back, which is very typical of an insect. This one would be quite a challenging one because I've taken green paper, but then I've put it onto the red paper, so I've outlined it in purple and I've outlined it in blue, and then I've done the head and I've outlined that in yellow. So the outlining is really good. Now if you were in grade 5 or 6, I would expect you to cut everything out. If you're in grade 3 or 4, you might want to use crayon, or I just used some pastels and I just drew the eyes into my picture. So if you're in grade 3 or 4, you might want to draw the antennae, you might want to draw the eyes. It's a good idea not to glue it on until you're completely finished, just in case you've decided that you didn't really like your picture. So if you don't glue it on until you're completely ready, or you can make your picture, take a photo of it, and then just remake it and keep remaking it, or give it to someone to do as a puzzle and say, right, make a bug. So I hope you enjoy doing this activity. Play some music while you're cutting, take your time, start thinking about shapes of bugs that you would like to do. At the end of the lesson, I want you to think about, did you need more practice with cutting? Did you find the cutting quite challenging? Do you think that you need to practice this? Are you a practice penguin? Did you find the activity very enjoyable? You think you did a super job and you're all done. You're done it, dog. You read the learning intention, you learnt it, you understood it, you did it. Do you think that you are completely green and you are a teacher tiger and you could teach someone in your family how to do this? So have a think about where you are on your traffic lights, and hopefully you enjoyed it and you were feeling calm when you made it. If you start to get a bit stressed out, put some music on, ask someone for some assistance. Don't forget to send your picture to me on the web page as my web address. And if you want to do more art, you can go over to the F2 page where they are doing bugs made out of leaves and stones, and then they're just taking photos of it and making a temporary art piece. So I hope that you enjoyed this today. Send your pictures and I will see you next time. Bye.